Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Levine. I hope you're all doing well. It's the end of the summer for most of us. And with that in mind, this is going to be a wrap-up of what I read in the month of August. And I think most of them were while I was at the camp. Since I've been home, not so much reading. I don't really know what happened there. Anyhow, the two books that I was really keen to read that I had set aside, one at Christmas time because I really wanted to read this while we were at the camps. This is The Eyes and the Impossible by Dave Eggers. And I can't, this is a wooden, it's so beautiful. It's a wooden cutout cover. It's so beautiful. And I thought originally it was about a fox, but nope, that's a dog. And the whole book is gorgeous. It's got the gold edging there. It's got the most beautiful paintings inside, and there are at least 6. Sort of each section has a new painting. So we have got the dog who is the eyes of this island, and it sort of feels like off of the west coast somewhere, and it seems to be fairly large in terms of there are there's a park and there's an art gallery and there's a few other buildings on site, and so there are people who use the edges of the park for running and so on, so it seems to be a fairly active place. And this is a dog, Jonathan, who was born on the island. His mom was, a lady dog, and I guess mated with someone of the other side of the dog tracks. So she had the puppies under a tree, and she took one back to her owners, and the rest were left to fend for themselves. And so raccoons and a few other animals helped them out, and Jonathan is the remaining pup. The other 2 have gone off, probably to owners, that probably have been captured and SPCA. So anyways, we don't know that part of the story. But he can run like crazy, and he runs all these different paths, secret paths and public paths, and gets to know everything that is happening on the island. And he tells the 3 bison who, and everybody has names, everybody has human voices, and we still get to see nature as it is encountered, but we mostly see it through the eyes of animals where their habitats are being encroached upon. And so the 3 bison are fairly elderly, and Jonathan goes and tells them everything that there is to tell about what's happened on the island. And he has a group of friends. There's a seagull and a pelican and a squirrel and a raccoon. I think that's it. And they all meet on top of a rock where the humans can't see them. And they share their pieces of information and so on. And what happens is Jonathan has decided that, well, several things have happened. First of all, Jonathan has been spied. He rescued a child from drowning, and so that brought the attention of the humans to him. Otherwise, he was just kind of one of many dogs. And so now they're trying to find this hero dog, and then someone goes, wait a minute, is that a dog or is that something else? And so he's trying to stay low. and because the animals have got intelligence, they come up with plans that are fairly effective. And I didn't really think about this too much, but squirrels, I don't think they really have opposable thumbs, but they have got very clever little hands. So they must have something in their digits that's almost an opposable thumb. So the squirrels and the raccoons can really accomplish quite a lot. Jonathan is mesmerized by art and really wants to get into the art gallery. What else? Some goats come onto the island, and he encounters them and learns quite a lot about things, and decides somewhere that along the way that he wants to free the bison. And so the bison are in on it, but they don't really, they're old and they're just kind of humoring the young pup, so to speak. And so what we've got are all these dilemmas that are coming together in a really heartwarming kind of a story of what is freedom and who gets to give freedom, and what is entrapment and what is encroachment. But amongst all of this, we've just got this delightful, delightful dog who is so energetic, so puppyish, and the fun stuff that happens with the other animals as they try to help Jonathan realize his they're not delusions, but they're very grandiose. I mean, when he comes up with a plan, it isn't a little plan. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Steve read it as well, and I'm 100% sure it won an award, and I just haven't done my research, but I'm pretty sure one of you told me which award it won. Yeah, anyways, we'll find. I'll try and look it up and add it below, but. The second book that I was really keen to read over the summer at the camp is Anne of Green Gables, which is a multiple reread for me. I don't know how many times I've read this. Most of them when I was a child. I've read it that I remember twice while I was an adult. This would be the third time as an adult. And several months ago, we were in Wolfville, and I saw this in a used bookstore, and it was way more expensive than I wanted it to be. But I decided, this book has been in my brain ever since I read it as a little kid. So I thought I think I'm going to get a good copy, because also the one that I have is part of a threesome, and I can't even get it out of the box set. That's how deteriorated it is. So I read it again, and it's just as fun as it ever was. And each time I read it through, I come up with a different observation. And I didn't realize, like, the last time I read it, I was sick with something, and Steve was doing it as a read aloud. And the nature came forward, her description of the sceneries and their description of people's interactions and so on. So the setting was very present the last time I read it. This time as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, oh my God, she talks a lot. She just never shuts up. And it's not that it isn't funny and charming, but really she does rattle on like a can with beans in it. It's just, and they're funny observations, and she's got this self-awareness that is so like self-deprecating and glorifying at the same time. It's just, she's such a quirky character. She gets into her madcap adventures, but I remember as a kid that the adventures were just very primary. Reading it this time through, the dialogue, or maybe the monologue, depending on your patience level, is much, much stronger. It was, for me anyhow, just noticed it a lot more. And I don't think that's a problem, because she is so entertaining. It was just fun to ride along with whatever was going on in Anne Shirley's head. So I super enjoyed it. I'm going to keep this and, probably read it every few years, just for something different. Now, slightly aside, my one book club is going to be doing Jane of Lantern Hill, also by Lucy Maud Montgomery, and that's somewhere in the middle of this month. I read that a little while ago, so it's also a reread for me, but Lucy Maud Montgomery, just every once in a while in her complete collection of books, comes up with some pretty darn good ones. And it's another book club. We're choosing between 3 Canadian oldies, and oh my God, what is that one called? The Blue House? Or The House on Lantern Hill? No, I'm getting it all mixed. Jane of Lantern Hill, and the other one is Blue House? Yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, I'm looking forward to reading that one too, to see if it's as strong as the other two I just mentioned. Okay, so those were my 2 faves. I also did an awful lot of reading about writing, because I am a writer off camera. And this one I picked up. Gail Carson Levine, who is an author that I really, really enjoy, and this writing on magic. And I like to write for the age group sort of between 8 and 13. That's sort of still willing to believe in just about anything if you can present it in a fun enough kind of a way. And I was thinking, you know what, I love magic stories myself. Why don't I give it a shot? So, writing magic, right? It's got nothing to do with magic. It has everything to do with writing. Now, I still enjoyed it. She gives you some interesting information like about voice or rhythm or texture. And then she has got some little writing prompts at the back end of the chapter. And so I took it up with me to the camp thinking, I'll follow through, I'll do the prompts, but I just didn't feel motivated. And when I actually got there to do the prompts, I was just more interested in reading what she was talking about, but also doing my own reading. And so I didn't get to the writing side of things. But if you are someone who, is doing homeschooling or in a classroom situation, or just want to do writers in the school kind of program, this is a great resource. It's a very strong resource. Plus, she as an author, Ella Enchanted was that was her Newbery Honor Award book. And so she's written an awful lot of books that do have either fairy tale retellings or magic as a large part of the story. So she really has got that wonderful sense of that particular subgenre. The other one I read, so this one was a fast one that I read. Cheryl loaned it to me. I had read it once before, and How to Write for Children and Get Published. And it is a good book. There's a lot of good information in it. However, it's a pretty much American, and it's from 2010. So things have shifted quite a bit in terms of self-publishing, and that's something I don't know anything about, which I'm hoping to find out more about. So good, but not as good as other books I've read on the topic. And I don't usually read books about writing. I mostly just try and write, but I do have a little collection, and they're mostly about how to write for children. And I have avoided this particular book. It's been recommended to me over and over. Stephen King on writing. And it's a memoir of the craft. The first portion of the book is biographical about Stephen King. Now, I avoided it because Stephen King and I do not get along, as I don't like his topics. I went to go see Carrie when I was about 16, 17. Scared me to death. Honestly, that last scene has never left me. That's how terrorized I was by it. So I don't have a lot of fond memories of Stephen King. But he is an excellent story writer, and the biography was really compelling. He talks about his mom, and he talks about how he came through the different stages of being a beginner writer and how he moved on. And then he also addresses some of his addiction issues from when he was younger. And his wife, Tabitha, is really a strong character for real in his life. And then we get into the whole how to write part. Stephen King can tell a really great story around just about anything. But I found that I had to read each piece twice to really... First, I just read it to read it, but then I'd have to read it a second time to actually find the germ of what it was that he was trying to tell us about. So if he's talking about voice, he's not wandering around, but he's giving a philosophical premise as to what voice should be, and so somewhere in there you've got to pull out the main idea, I guess. So the second half of the book could have been a lot shorter, and I didn't enjoy it as much. There were a couple of things that he came up with that I thought, oh yes, I must remember that. But as I'm talking, I've already forgotten. So I did take some notes somewhere. So hopefully I wrote down the important parts. But I'm glad I got that off of my chest, as it were, because everybody keeps recommending it, and now I can say, yeah, I have read it. It had its place. All right, I started a new series, or I picked it up when we were traveling, and the Janice Stone is by Ellie Griffiths. Picked it up somewhere in, I think it was British Columbia, and she is the winner of the Mary Higgins Clark Award, and this is a mystery. It's also a series. We have got, oh my gosh, what is that called? It's like a forensic archaeologist. So she does the study of bones, and her era is, well, it's pretty over everything, but I think that she sort of specializes in pre-Roman bones. she's called to a crime scene. There's a missing girl, and as I'm saying these things, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this book in the past. So, yeah. Anyhow, I liked it enough to get book number 2, and book number 2 is The Crossing Places. It's got a nice, like in terms of graphic design and having these on your shelves. Each one is kind of the same, and they've got this sort of marled cover to them. They're nice colors. They're a little bit gray, so it's just a very nice piece if you're going to have them on your shelves, and they're very attractive. So you can get the whole thing in a set if you wish to. Okay, so this time she has discovered that she's pregnant, and friends of hers have an archaeological dig in the nearby area, and bones have been discovered. And what they think has happened is that Roman and pre-Roman buildings would quite often have a sacrificial victim underneath the foundation stones, or underneath the door sill, or on the four corners, and that there were some semi-religious groups or sects, I guess, sects, S-E-C-T-S, I lost my shoe, where the victim would be decapitated. And so we've got a couple of decapitations in these different archaeological sites. And then the question is, are these bones really old? Or when there was some reconstruction after World War II, was that when those bodies were interred? So there's a modern day mystery going on about these bones. I didn't like this one as much. I think it's got a tighter story flow, and I think it's a little more plausible, but I don't know. It didn't quite have the same tingly effect as the first one, and I don't know whether that's because she and her fellow protagonist, the policeman, is his name Norman? Nelson. They're not quite as sparky off of each other, and I think that's because in the previous book they've sorted a couple of things out, and they respect each other a bit more, but they didn't have that kind of frisson that the first book did. I don't think I'm going to get the third one to purchase it. I'll look for it in the library, but that's partly because I'm out of bookshelves again. Like, you guys were probably along on the train wreck of my getting shelves up in the upstairs area. They're full. And I'm trying to decide, okay, I know that I need another bookshelf, but should I just buy 72 and just start filling them up? And then Steve's got a different solution, which is to stop buying books. He's so silly. Okay, 2 other books I loved, which I really enjoyed. This is a reread for me. Sharon Creech, One Time. And she is an amazing, amazing author. This is for middle grade readers, winner of the Newbery Medal for Walk 2 Moons. I think I have attempted to read everything that she's written, and I don't think let me see here. There's at least 20 offerings, and some of them are more like primary. I think they're younger. So what I have to do one of these days is just go through her list and try and figure out what I've read and what I haven't read. This is a really, really sweet book. The reason I purchased it is because it's the kind of book that if you look as a writer, if I'm kind of a bit stumped or something, I do have a couple of books on my shelves where I can go back to them and just kind of open up, and they've got something that you can spin off of. So this was a book that, it generates ideas. Is a new teacher, and she is called Miss Lightstone, and she has asked the children to, I would say they're about grade 3. She's asked them to do writing things, and so she's working her way through inspiring them with words on the board, and to, write a sentence, and then it builds to write a paragraph. And our protagonist here, whose name is Gina, short for Angelina, she writes some very interesting observations to Miss Lighthouse, and as each chapter is kind of another letter that she builds and grows upon, So we've got new neighbors, the porcupine, the angels, and the counselor, that old swamp. So what Gina is doing is learning how to write observationally. Other kids in the class are maybe writing hero stories or magic stories or romantic stories. So each kid will take, let's just pretend the word on the board for that day is plant. And so, what can you make your characters do? What can you do in your setting with that word? But what is also developing is that the pictures are coming up and being added to this inspiration board. So somebody might pick out a picture that has got well, actually, this would be a great example, the next book, like reflections. So that would be a picture that might go up onto the wall and the word reflections. And so eventually the kids are adding to the words and adding to the pictures and so on. And of course, something happens in the middle where Miss Lighthouse's teaching methods are not so well received by some other teachers, because eventually the kids get to the point where that's the only thing they want to do is write. It's just become this amazing little writing club. And Miss Lighthouse is a young lady and is finding the stress of 5 days a week of teaching to be a bit much. So Wednesdays are silent day, which I think is brilliant. Like, who couldn't use that in your workplace or in your home? It's just like, nobody talk. From 9 o'clock till 12, nobody talk. And use sign language, write it down, whatever it takes, just nobody talk. And then resume from 1 till 3. I think it's fabulous, and I think everybody's workplace should have at least one no speaking portion of the week. Wouldn't the workplace be a lot better? So it's so much fun, and every chapter has got a different observation that Gina's making in her world. And so, like I say, it's sort of a book of writing prompts in a way. Somewhere on my shelf there's another book, I think it's called The Wild Girls, which has a similar kind of children writing, that's the storyline, and what they discover through their writing. I think it was, I talked about it just the other day, the 9 Labors of Hercules Beale. Yes, and so his assignment was also to, not only to perform the feats of Hercules, the mythic person Hercules, but to reflect upon them in writing. And so his writing skills are also being developed through the course of the book. I think it's just, I could never pull that off in my own kind of writing thing. So when another author can do that, I think it's just brilliant. This is the last book I'm going to talk about, the summer book by Tove Jansson, and it is beautiful. I saved it for the summer because that was the topic. We have got a family that has gone to an island in the Gulf of Finland. So grandma is there. She's Sophia, and she's got the daughter. What is the daughter's? No, I'm telling you wrong. Sophia is the girl, 6-year-old girl, and grandma. And it's grandma who doesn't have a name. But she's pretty cranky. She's got attitude. And it's just so beautifully written, and it's not written in a sort of completely linear way. Each chapter, I'm never 100% sure where we are in Sophia's life. Is she a young Sophia? Is she sort of preteen? We don't really get into the teenage years, so it's sort of, let's just say it's between 6 and 12, 14 at the most. And Granny is also aging, but Granny in some chapters she's reasonably agile, and they'll be crawling under bushes, and they'll be hiding from something. And in the next time you see her, and she's crawling under the bushes, and it's like she can't get out; her knees are too sore. So the timeline is kind of misty. And the other thing that's kind of misty is you're never entirely sure who's on the island at that particular time. It's really just a family island, but at one point a young girl joins as a friend. Another time there's a fellow who goes from island to island with mail and supplies and things like that, but you never know when he's going to show up, and neither do the people on the island. And there's just a few other tertiary characters who show up and don't show up, and but they get referred to as if they've just left, but maybe they were actually 7 chapters earlier. So the timeline doesn't bother because it's just doesn't, it's not jarring. It does not leap from place to a time place to time place. It just kind of steps over the creek gently. There's a lot of poetry in here. There's a lot of relationships and growth between Sophia and her grandmother. There's some sort of coming to the end of lifeness as the summer. So although, let's just pretend there are 15 summers described in the book itself just takes the time of one summer. So if that makes sense. So I have read something else by Tove Jansson and really enjoyed it, although that was multiple years ago. There's a few tiny little illustrations in it. There's wonderful imagination, and this is an author to keep seeking out. And if you have read any kind of Norse sagas, it will resonate for you. It has got that kind of human element amongst the big nature thing. I think Steve talked about this at length, right? I probably tuned out. I mean, he's a lovely, lovely guy, and he talks so beautifully, but I hear him all the time, so I don't always catch all his gems. I think he talked about this while we were, maybe not. Okay, I think that's it for me. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will talk to you next week with, I don't know, because I'm not doing any reading right now, so could be a challenge. Bye-bye for now.